The shelter workers warned Liam Carter that Kaiser was damaged goods, a retired police K-9 with a crippled leg and too many battlefield scars. But when Liam looked into those weary, intelligent eyes, he didn't see a broken dog. He saw a reflection of himself, a soldier who'd given everything, only to be discarded when the fight was over. Neither of them expected a second chance. Neither knew they'd save each other's lives. The wind cut through Liam Carter's jacket like it wasn't even there, carrying with it the sharp, earthy scent of dying leaves and impending frost. He stood motionless outside the shelter's chain-link fence, his breath coming in slow, measured puffs of white in the cold air. His hands buried deep in the pockets of his faded army jacket, clenched and unclenched around nothing. The therapist's words echoed in his mind. You need something to care for, Liam. Something that needs you as much as you need it. The shelter loomed before him, its once bright sign. Second chance pause, now weathered and peeling, the letters barely legible under layers of grime and time. The building itself seemed to sag under the weight of years, its brick facade cracked and stained by decades of harsh winters. Somewhere inside, a chorus of barks and whines created a discordant symphony of desperation and hope. Liam's boots scuffed against the cracked concrete as he approached the entrance. He hadn't planned on coming here today. Hadn't planned on coming at all, really. But the nightmares had been worse lately, and the silence in his empty cabin had grown too loud to bear. The door groaned in protest as he pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit reception area that smelled overwhelmingly of disinfectant and wet dog. A young woman with tired eyes and a messy bun looked up from behind the counter, her name tag reading, Emily, Volunteer. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice carrying the practiced patience of someone who'd repeated the question too many times to count. Liam shook his head, the motion sharp and defensive. "Just looking," he muttered, his voice rough from disuse. Emily studied him for a moment, the stiff way he held himself, the shadows under his eyes, the way his gaze darted around the room but never quite met hers. She'd seen enough veterans come through these doors to recognize the signs. "Take your time," she said gently, gesturing toward the hallway lined with kennels. "They're all good dogs here." The noise hit Liam like a physical force as he stepped into the kennel area. A cacophony of barks, yips, and the frantic scratching of claws against metal. Dozens of hopeful faces pressed against cage bars as he passed, tails wagging furiously, tongues lolling in desperate attempts to win his attention. A wiry terrier leapt repeatedly against its gate. A hound mix howled mournfully from the back. Liam kept his expression carefully blank as he walked down the row, his shoulders tense beneath his jacket. This had been a mistake. These were someone else's dogs, for someone else's life. He wasn't. Then he reached the last kennel. In the far corner, nearly hidden in shadow, lay a massive German shepherd. Unlike the other dogs, he didn't rush to the bars, didn't bark, didn't even lift his head as Liam approached. His coat was dull and patchy, with several visible scars marring his flank. One hind leg twitched slightly even at rest, the remnant of some old injury. Liam found himself stopping despite himself. There was something in the way the dog lay there. Not defeated, exactly, but resigned. Like he'd long since stopped expecting anything from anyone. Then, as if sensing Liam's gaze, the shepherd slowly lifted his head. Their eyes met. Something in Liam's chest tightened painfully. The dog's gaze was ancient and knowing, filled with a quiet intelligence that went beyond simple animal awareness. There was recognition there, an understanding that went bone deep. A low, rumbling sound vibrated from the shepherd's chest, not quite a growl, not quite a whine. Something in between, something that sounded almost like acknowledgement. Liam's breath caught in his throat. He stepped closer without thinking, his fingers curling around the cold metal bars of the kennel. The nameplate read, Kaiser. Male, 9 years. Retired K9, not recommended for adoption. Liam exhaled sharply through his nose. His fingers twitched against the bars. Yeah, he murmured, so softly he barely heard himself. I know exactly what that's like. Behind him, Emily cleared her throat gently. He came in about 6 months ago, she said. Police K9. Got hurt in the line of duty. Liam didn't turn around. What happened? Knife wound to the hindquarter during a drug bust. They tried to rehab him, but... She trailed off with a shrug that said everything. Broken in ways that didn't show on the surface, about being discarded when you were no longer useful. Kaiser was watching him still, those dark, knowing eyes, seeing far more than Liam was comfortable with. Without thinking, Liam raised his hand slightly, an old military hand signal for stay. Kaiser didn't move, didn't even blink. A strange feeling settled in Liam's chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time, something that might have been hope. He turned to Emily, his voice rough but certain. I want to take him home. Emily hesitated, her fingers tightening around the clipboard. Kaiser's different, she said carefully. He's not like the other dogs here. Liam didn't break eye contact with the German shepherd. I noticed. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting uneven shadows across Kaiser's scarred muzzle. The dog hadn't looked away since Liam had stopped at his kennel, his dark eyes tracking every micro-expression that crossed the veteran's face. There was an intelligence there that unsettled Liam in a way he couldn't explain, like the dog could see straight through him. You understand he has special needs, right? Emily stepped closer, her sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. The leg injury means he can't... I know what a torn tendon looks like, Liam interrupted, his voice sharper than he intended. He flexed his own left hand unconsciously. The scars from shrapnel burns pale against his tanned skin. I've got some experience with injuries that don't heal, right? Emily studied him for a long moment before sighing. Let me get his file. As she walked away, Liam crouched down to Kaiser's level. The dog didn't react at first, just continued watching him with that unnerving stillness. Up close, Liam could see the network of fine scars webbing the dog's face, thin white lines that spoke of a lifetime of close calls. Been through some shit, huh? Liam murmured. Kaiser's ear twitched. Just once. Emily returned with a thick folder. His medical history is extensive, she said, flipping through pages. 3 years with the K9 unit, 17 successful drug busts, 2 citations for bravery. She paused. And 1 permanent medical discharge. Liam took the file, skimming through the clinical reports. The dry medical terminology couldn't mask the violence beneath. Tendon lacerations, deep muscle trauma, nerve damage. The surgeon's notes were particularly blunt. Significant loss of function in right hind leg. Prognosis for full recovery. Poor. He still reacts to commands, Liam asked without looking up. Sometimes. Emily shrugged. Mostly he ignores everyone. The trainers say he's depressed, Liam finished, his eyes catching on a psychologist's evaluation. Subject exhibits signs of canine depression consistent with handler separation and loss of purpose. The words hit too close to home. Liam closed the file with a snap. I want to take him outside, Emily blinked. Now? Yeah, now. The shelter's backyard was a fenced-in square of patchy grass and mud. Kaiser moved stiffly as Emily clipped on the leash, his bad leg dragging slightly. But when Liam took the leash, something changed. The dog's posture straightened, his ears pricking forward just slightly. They walked in silence at first, Kaiser matching Liam's limping gait perfectly. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of wood smoke from distant houses. Leaves crunched underfoot, and somewhere above them a murder of crows argued in the bare branches of an oak tree. Without thinking, Liam raised his left hand in a sharp gesture. Halt. Kaiser stopped immediately. Liam's breath caught. He tried another. Heel. And Kaiser fell into perfect step beside him, his damaged leg barely noticeable in the smooth precision of his movements. Emily's eyes widened. He's never done that for anyone before. Liam didn't respond. He was too busy watching the way Kaiser's entire demeanor had shifted, the way his head was up now, his gait more confident. Like a soldier who'd suddenly remembered he was a soldier. A gust of wind sent dead leaves skittering across the ground. Kaiser's ears swiveled toward the sound, his body tensing slightly. "Schutzhund trained?" Liam asked quietly. Emily nodded. "Top of his class, according to the records." Liam reached down, running his fingers along Kaiser's scarred flank. The dog didn't flinch, just turned his head to watch Liam with those two knowing eyes. "I'll take him," Liam said. "Are you sure?" "He's broken," Liam finished. "Yeah, me too." The paperwork took less time than Liam expected. As he signed the last form, Kaiser sat patiently at his feet, his warm weight pressing against Liam's bad leg in a way that somehow eased, Emily said, handing over a worn leather harness. "It helps support his hindquarters on long walks." Liam took it, his fingers brushing against the faded K9 insignia still visible on the side. Kaiser sniffed at it, his tail giving a single, slow wag. The drive home was quiet. Kaiser sat upright in the passenger seat, staring out the window like he was memorizing the route. Every so often his nose would twitch at some passing scent, but otherwise he remained perfectly still, a sentinel on duty. Liam's cabin came into view, its weathered wood blending into the surrounding forest. As he killed the engine, Kaiser turned to look at him, waiting. "This is it," Liam said, more to himself than the dog. "Home." Kaiser's ears perked at the word. He leaned forward slightly, his nose brushing against Liam's wrist. A silent question. Liam swallowed hard. For the first time in years, the weight in his chest didn't feel quite so heavy. "Come on, partner," he said, opening the door. "Let's go inside." The cabin smelled of pine resin and gun oil as Liam shouldered open the door, Kaiser moving like a shadow at his heels. The German shepherd paused on the threshold, his nose working as he took in the new scents. Wood smoke, leather, the faint metallic tang of cleaned firearms. His ears swiveled forward, then back, cataloging every unfamiliar sound in the space. "Make yourself at home," Liam muttered, tossing his keys onto the rough-hewn kitchen table. The words sounded strange in his mouth. He hadn't said them to anyone in years. Kaiser limped forward with deliberate steps, his claws clicking against the hardwood. He moved methodically from room to room, sniffing at the baseboards, pausing to study the faded photograph of Liam's old unit on the bookshelf, circling twice before settling on the braided rug near the stone fireplace. Liam watched him from the kitchen, filling a bowl with water. "That's your spot, huh?" The dog didn't respond, just lowered himself onto the rug with a quiet groan, his bad leg stretching out awkwardly. Up close in the cabin's light, Liam could see the full map of Kaiser's scars, the knotted tissue along his ribs, the way his right ear didn't quite stand at attention like the left. Thunder rumbled in the distance as Liam set the water bowl down. Kaiser's head came up instantly, his body tensing. "Just a storm," Liam said, more to himself than the dog. "Nothing to—" A brilliant flash lit up the windows, followed by a crack of thunder that shook the old cabin's timbers. Kaiser was on his feet in an instant, his entire body rigid. Not cowering. Alert. Ready. Liam's own pulse jumped. The sudden noise had sent him back, not to the cabin but to the desert, to the concussive roar of IEDs, to the acrid smell of burning rubber and— Another thunderclap. Liam's vision tunneled, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. His hands trembled where they gripped the edge of the counter, the scars on his fingers standing out white against his knuckles. Then, warmth. pressure against his thigh. Kaiser stood beside him, his solid weight pressed against Liam's leg, not jumping, not licking, just there, present. Liam's fingers found the dog's scruff automatically, the coarse fur grounding him. He focused on the feel of it, the texture, the heat, the steady rise and fall of Kaiser's breathing. The storm raged outside, rain hammering against the roof like gunfire. But inside, with his hand buried in Kaiser's fur, Liam found he could breathe again. They stayed like that until the worst of the storm passed. When Liam finally moved toward the bedroom, Kaiser followed, settling onto the rag rug beside the bed with a sigh. Liam lay awake long into the night, listening to the dog's steady breathing, to the occasional creak of the old cabin settling. The nightmares didn't come that night. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel so loud. The first snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the forest in hushed silence. Liam stood at the kitchen window before dawn, steaming coffee in hand, watching Kaiser methodically patrol the perimeter of the clearing. The dog moved with purpose despite his limp, nose skimming the fresh powder, ears constantly swiveling. Every few paces he'd pause, head lifting to scan the tree line with military precision. "Still on duty, huh?" Liam murmured as he opened the cabin door. Kaiser glanced back but didn't break his routine. His breath fogged in the cold air as he completed his circuit, finally returning to Liam's side with a soft chuff. A thin layer of snow clung to his whiskers, melting as he stepped inside. The day passed quietly, split firewood stacked against the wall, a simple stew simmering on the stove, the occasional creak of floorboards as Kaiser shifted positions near the windows. By nightfall, and turned in early, Kaiser taking his usual post at the foot of the bed. Somewhere in the dead hours between midnight and dawn, the dog's low growl woke him. Liam's eyes snapped open. Kaiser stood rigid beside the bed, every muscle taut, his focus locked on the front of the cabin. No frantic barking, just that continuous vibrating warning deep in his chest. Then Liam heard it, the faint crunch of snow underfoot. He moved silently, his years of training overriding the sleep fog. The .45 came out of the nightstand drawer with practiced ease. Kaiser fell into step beside him as he crept toward the front room, their movements synchronized without need for commands. A shadow moved across the frosted window pane. Glass shattered as someone smashed the kitchen window. Liam's pulse hammered, but his hands stayed steady. He positioned himself beside the doorway, Kaiser pressed against his leg like a living weapon waiting to be unleashed. "Check the bedroom first," a rough voice whispered. The floorboards groaned under approaching footsteps. Liam counted them, 1, 2, 3 paces into the cabin. "Now," he breathed. Kaiser exploded forward with a snarl that would have frozen hell itself. The intruder screamed as 80 pounds of battle-trained muscle hit him chest high, knocking him backward into a side table. The lamp crashed to the floor in a shower of sparks. Liam stepped into the doorway, weapon raised. "Don't move." The man on the floor went still, Kaiser's teeth hovering millimeters from his throat. A second figure froze halfway through the broken window, eyes wide with terror. "Please," the first intruder begged, his voice strangled. "Call him off." Liam didn't blink. "Kaiser. Guard." The dog adjusted his stance, his growl dropping to a menacing rumble. The smell of urine filled the air as the intruder soiled himself. It took the sheriff 20 minutes to arrive. The whole time, Kaiser never relaxed his position, never broke focus. When the deputies finally cuffed the would-be thieves, one of them shook his head at Liam. "That dog of yours." "Yeah," Liam agreed, running a hand through Kaiser's thick ruff. The dog leaned into the touch, his body still vibrating with residual tension. "He's something else." After the deputies left, Liam sat on the porch steps in the freezing dark, his hands shaking now that the adrenaline had faded. Kaiser pressed against his side, a solid, living warmth against the night's chill. "You saved my ass tonight, partner," Liam murmured into the dog's fur. Kaiser huffed softly, as if to say he'd do it again in a heartbeat. Inside, the broken window gaped like a wound, but for the first time since coming home from the war, Liam didn't feel like the vulnerable one, not with this battle-scarred sentinel at his side. Winter's grip tightened around the cabin like a fist. Liam woke to find Kaiser still curled on his rug by the extinguished fireplace, the dog's breathing noticeably labored. Frost etched delicate patterns across the window panes as he knelt beside his old friend. "Not today, huh?" Liam murmured, running a hand along Kaiser's flank. The once powerful muscles had wasted to skin and bone beneath the gray, muzzled face. The dog's tail thumped weakly against the floorboards. The vet's prognosis from last month echoed in Liam's mind. His heart's failing. It's time to consider. "Come on, soldier," Liam whispered, helping Kaiser to his feet. The dog swayed for a moment before finding his balance. They moved slowly toward the door, Kaiser's bad leg dragging more than usual. Outside, dawn painted the snow in pale gold. Kaiser paused at the top of the porch steps, his nose working the frozen air. Then, with visible effort, he began his final perimeter check. Nose to ground, moving in painstaking increments along the property line they'd patrolled together for nearly a decade. Liam followed a step behind, his own joints protesting the cold. Past the woodpile where Kaiser had once treed a bear cub. Past the old oak with its bullet-scarred trunk from target practice. Past the vegetable garden Kaiser had guarded from marauding rabbits every spring. Halfway around the clearing, Kaiser's legs gave out. Liam caught him before he hit the snow, cradling the old warrior against his chest. Kaiser's breath came in shallow puffs against his neck as Liam carried him back inside. The fire crackled to life as Liam settled them both onto the rug. He stroked Kaiser's ears the way he'd done after nightmares, after thunderstorms, after bad pain days for both of them. The dog's heartbeat fluttered like a trapped bird beneath his fingers. "You remember that first storm?" Liam's voice cracked. "Scared the hell out of both of us." Kaiser's tail, the winter sun, climbed higher, painting the room in buttery light. Liam talked until his throat ran raw, about their first hunt together, about the time Kaiser herded those lost hikers back to safety, about all the silent nights when just having another heartbeat in the room made the darkness bearable. As the light began to fade, Kaiser lifted his head one last time and licked Liam's scarred fingers. Then, with a quiet sigh, the old soldier finally stood down. The fire burned low, the winter wind moaned through the trees, and for the first time in 12 years, Liam Carter was alone with his ghosts. He sat there long into the night, his tears drying in Kaiser's fur, the dog's collar clenched tight in his fist. Somewhere beyond the frosted windows, an owl called, a lonely sound that echoed through the hollow places the best dog in the world had once filled. Spring came late that year. Liam stood at the edge of the clearing where he'd buried Kaiser beneath their favorite oak. The earth had settled now, greening over with new growth. He knelt to place a fresh bundle of wildflowers beside the simple marker when a sound made him turn. A German shepherd puppy tumbled out of the underbrush, all oversized paws and floppy ears. It skidded to a stop at Liam's boots, tail wagging furiously. Behind the pup, a familiar figure emerged, Emily, now gray at the temples, holding a frayed leather leash. "He's from Kaiser's bloodline," she said softly, "born 3 days after." Liam didn't speak. The puppy sat abruptly, cocking its head in that eerily familiar way, one ear up, one ear down. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Somewhere in the trees, a woodpecker drummed out its steady rhythm. The puppy whined and nudged Liam's hand with its cold nose. Slowly, Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out Kaiser's old collar. The tags jingled softly as he fastened it around the pup's neck. It fit perfectly. "Welcome home, Ranger," he whispered. And high above them the oak's new leaves trembled in the breeze, as if nodding in approval.